Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and others. This is day two of SODACON 2021. We had a panel discussion yesterday and we got to know a lot of things in the data trends in data and storage technologies. But today we're talking about something else. We're talking about the trends in cloud native and container storage future. And the question is, should we debate about this? Come to think of it, none better than the panel we have with us today. We have with us Vivek Sridhar, Senior Developer Product Marketing Manager at Microsoft, Alex Shirkup, Founder and CEO at StorageOS. He's also the co-chair at CNCF Storage Tag. Atish Arora, Senior Director of Engineering from Capgemini, and Soumik Ghosh, Architect from Wipro. And moderating this panel is Sanil Kumardi, Chief Architect, Technical Oversight Committee member, and the Architecture Work Group Lead at Soda and Huawei Technologies. Over to you, Sanil.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Welcome to this panel. And thank you so much, Alex, Atish, Vivek, Soumik, taking off your time and joining us. Especially, I think some of you sacrifice your lunch. Okay, so last two sessions, if you see, we had talks on why container storage is important, and then we had some demo on container storage, and now we are again asking that should we debate again about container storage and the cloud native storage. And today the panel has a specialty. It's a full stack panel. Okay, we have system side expert from Alex to storage manageability, Soumik, and SaaS kind of solutions from Atish, and Vivek is on cloud, and extension to that is developer community. I think so we can listen to him about what are the opportunity for developers also and what Microsoft is doing in that. Okay, let's get started. So before we go into container storage, let's quickly go through about cloud native and container, maybe 1 or 2 minutes, and then probably you can introduce your current work, and maybe I'll start with Alex.
Hello, so my name is Alex Kirkup. I'm the CEO and founder of StorageOS. My background before engaging on this new fun startup adventure in cloud native was working with large finance organizations. So I've been building infrastructure for companies like Goldman Sachs and Nomura, for example. The way I see cloud native developments is cloud native gives developers the ability to compose their infrastructure and to apply automation and scale and automated healing. You know, and the question is, after organizations adopt containers and make their applications portable, and then adopt Kubernetes, which allows them to orchestrate their applications and apply all of that automation, the next step is, of course, to think about stateful workloads, because at the end of the day, there is no such thing as a stateful application there. I've said it. Every application needs to store state somewhere. And of course, once you get all the benefits of containers and Kubernetes, why wouldn't you want to apply those benefits to stateful workloads too, whatever they are, you know, whether it's databases or message queues or object stores or file systems, and getting the benefit of being able to build any service anywhere on any infrastructure. I think Sunil, you're on mute.
Atish, you want to add something onto this about cloud native and container, and what are the areas you work on?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I concur with Alex there. With, of course, COVID and this current situation that we see, you know, it's kind of a challenging situation that we've never seen before, right? Where we have to work remotely, wear the attire that you like, of course, but more importantly, be able to operate your business remotely, right? And that's where, you know, we've seen a lot of initiative startup when it comes to SaaS-based applications. Right? And they are all cloud native. If you go to look at it, they're all based off containers. So I kind of concur with what Alex is saying. it emphasizes what we've seen in the last 1.5 years. You might have seen businesses suddenly grow, Zoom, Teams being classic examples, and some wanting to scale down, Uber, Ola for an example there. Right? And you would have seen how their current architectures have scaled up or scaled down. Right? If they hadn't architected it that way, it would have been big trouble for them. And most of the success stories that we see today are cloud native, based on containers, and who've architected well with their storage solutions too.
Yeah, thanks, Satish. Soumik, what do you think, especially from storage manageability? Do you see any specific use cases where cloud native and container deployments are becoming very high?
Right. I mean, I was hearing for a lot of talks in Soda since yesterday, and each of them is very interesting. And people are talking about Kubernetes and container and how they are growing from the last 3-4 years, right? And it's slowly replacing VMs, and different applications and workloads are now moving towards container-based architecture, right? And also, I mean, microservice and DevOps, these trends are becoming so integral part of the application development nowadays. So container is becoming a very important, I mean, it plays a very key role on this architecture, right? Where when we are architecting a whole application in microservice-based architecture or a distributed DB or anything like that, and of course a hybrid cloud environment, then our container is the key role here. That's my take out here, and we are seeing pretty much many projects which were developed in legacy platform or stuff like that. They are inclined towards moving to container, though they know it's a huge investment maybe at the initial stage, but I mean, that is the future. So that's where people are going towards.
Thanks, Soumik. So I'll just extend this question a little bit because of Vivek's specific background. So we have already seen from Alex and Atish and Soumik saying that the infrastructure is more composed, it can be dynamically scaled up, scaled down, and because of COVID, a lot of specific use cases. And Soumik was mentioning about hybrid. So everything comes to one or the other way related to cloud. And cloud and cloud native to container kind of a deployment becoming more in the sense there is some kind of opportunity for even the developers, the developer community. So how do you see this technology development in this area, cloud and cloud native, not specifically on the storage side, and the developer community? I mean, are they having enough skill to meet these technology challenges?
Sure. Firstly, Sanil, thanks for the invite and to share my expertise or whatever I know with the community. And let me go back 8 years. The way I was working on DevOps, I was head of DevOps. You can imagine when you're head of DevOps what you're going through 10 years back or 8 years back, right? So while we were deploying so many apps and other things, it was so difficult for us to manage it. And today, if you ask me to go back and build the same thing, I would definitely do it on containers and on the cloud native tools. I will definitely choose that, right? So that is the transformation I have had, and I am sure the enterprises, the startups, and everyone will have the similar kind of mindset. And from a developer perspective, it's the same thing. As a developer myself, how we used to do it 8 years back, I'm not going to use those tools again. I'm going to go back to the tools which are coming in now, and it's specifically for cloud native and specifically for container strategies, right? And I'm sure that as Gartner say, in their reports, right? 80% of their 80% of the enterprises, 80% of the companies will have container strategies by 2022. So this is so important for even the community, developer community, to understand the container background and orchestration of that, and even the from the storage perspective, how to do it with multi-cloud, how to do it with the hybrid cloud, and even the on-prem was management of that through the orchestration and containers. So there is a lot of opportunity and a lot of skilling is scope for skilling and opportunity for people to upskill themselves and drive things in future, right? So that's the thing.
Yeah, developers out there, I think you should listen to this. Learn, unlearn, or unlearn, learn, because you have to keep up with the pace of the changes, and it's very, very dynamic. Okay, so now we just get into the topic like container storage as such. So is there anything very specific use cases we see? Because we already discussed about the infrastructure management or new SaaS applications, scale up, scale down kind of thing. But always we see that any technology changes happening, say for example from VM to container. In most of the say banking, insurance, and financial services companies, how do they look at it? The transition is faster, or they see some very specific use cases with respect to container storage per se. Alex, you want to start?
Sure. I think just following on from Vivek's point, what we see today is that the majority of new applications, according to the CNCF survey, up to 95% of new applications are actually being developed on containers. So I think the use cases are quite vast, and today we see almost 85% of organizations have already deployed Kubernetes in production. And of course, it's early days and it's just a small part of their infrastructure potentially, but it's growing really, really fast. Certainly with the customers and the community that I work with, I've seen a huge variety of use cases from, banking and trading platforms moving to containers and cloud environments. We've seen research organizations, we've seen retail workloads. Interestingly, with the KubeVirt project, we're even seeing now Kubernetes managing VMs and organizations building out infrastructure as a service using Kubernetes with cloud native storage, and we certainly have we've certainly had this experience with a number of service providers who are building out managed services this way. So I think the use cases are varied. The important thing with cloud native storage is that it needs to follow the cloud native principles. So I think one of the major changes that we're seeing with these use cases is that cloud native storage needs to be application centric, right? In the past, storage was something you provisioned to a node or to a server or to an operating system, and of course now that we've made our applications portable with containers and we've allowed them to be orchestrated with Kubernetes, what we really need is data that can follow the application and can be accessed in a declarative and composable way, just like any other aspect of a containerized system. So those are kind of the use cases and the drivers behind it. I think developers just want to be able to build anything as a service. And that's the key here.
Yeah, anything as a service. I think everything as a service today. Okay, so in that case, we'll come to Atish because he will talk more about it, because software as a service. I think you predominantly you work on SaaS.
Yep.
So when you work, especially on the application side, is it that these container storage specific use cases are must, or it's very critical for the specific use cases?
Yeah, we've actually seen two kinds of use cases. One, definitely people who just want to start up. They want to start small. Look at options like platform as a service being offered by cloud vendors, start small and grow from there. But a large set of customers, when it comes to enterprise applications, they have a different kind of a need, right, when it comes to storage as well. And when you're specifically migrating your application to a SaaS-based model, you have a couple of things to look at, right? One, like Vivek said, right, multi-cloud, right? You would want to make sure that you're not tied up to a particular cloud vendor, right? Two, you would look at making sure that your application is running across availability zones, even in with a particular vendor, right? And three, when it comes to your data strategy, you would look at archiving your data when you don't need it. Probably looking at tiering of data, right, where you would make sure that your costs are also optimized. If you look at these three use cases, right, they pose a very different challenge to container-based storage solutions, right? How do you make sure that your application is being able to use storage from across multiple zones, right? Or how does your storage be exposed to multiple zones, right? Rather, right? How do you make sure that your storage is available across different clouds, right? And how do you make sure there are policies which will automatically tier your data, right? Which bring in interesting use cases for container storages.
Yeah, that aligns with what Alex mentioned, that it is cloud native is more application centric. So we also saw that we have recently conducted SODA data and storage survey. So in that also we have seen some kind of a distributed file system, shared for FS. These kind of some kind of use cases as predominantly people are trying out. And also we have seen that Kubernetes cloud, Kubernetes on-premise, Kubernetes hybrid is kind of top 3 position from the respondents. Soumik, do you see in storage manageability perspective the container storage position? How do you see that?
Yeah, actually, I mean, recently we were working with some of the top financial organization in India, where they are trying to migrate from the legacy environment to the, I mean, more towards a container environment and hybrid cloud kind of approach. Maybe not a hybrid cloud because they are kind of financial organization and they have sensitive data, so they don't want to go to the public cloud. They mostly wanted to be in a private cloud environment. So when we are evaluating their old architecture and then try to go with the new architecture, we did the survey in multiple stages. I mean, from network to compute to storage to their applications, all over we have done a thorough analysis. And what we have seen, like, I mean, they are really concerned about how the storage management happens in their environment till date, right? They are kind of they don't have much clue like what's going wrong in the storage, because that organization has a lack of storage expertise or storage management expertise, right? So they don't have really much clue, and they are more towards coming up with some unified management tools or management platform which they can use day to day. Because they also have heterogeneous environment, right? I mean, they have multiple vendors. They have a hundred of multiple vendors, and managing those when different platforms as getting difficult day by day, right? And the maintenance cost and all are pretty high. So they want to have something towards open source and which is unified platform which they can easily use to debug the problems, right? So something goes wrong in the storage side of the application, they are kind of clueless. I mean, they know they're pretty strong in network, but they're pretty strong in the application, but they are kind of clueless when it goes to storage. And that's the pain point that we are trying to solve with them. And there, I think containers storage and container-centric applications are pretty good now, because in application side also they are creating a lot of logs in terms of storage and all these things, which we can analyze and give more predictive data, which was kind of difficult in a SAN or in a NAS kind of or NFS kind of environment, which is now pretty easy for us.
I'm happy to listen these three keywords like heterogeneous storage, unified solution, and open. So that is nothing but ODF, Open Data Framework. Okay, so coming, we see a trend. I think Samik also mentioned that enterprise is not going out. We talk about multi-cloud, hybrid cloud, edge computing, but at the same time, we see that enterprise world is still strong. So there are a lot of indicators like the cloud vendors are coming to provide on-premise solutions. And so in this context, from the cloud perspective, Vivek, what do you think that the cloud vendors uh, do they focus more on multi-cloud hybrid kind of environment also, or they will still have enterprise solutions based on container storage?
I mean, that's a tough question to answer because it depends on the customer as well. Um, so, so what from my perspective, whatever I've seen from my interactions within the organization and with the external communities, so what I see is there is definitely a hybrid cloud model from an enterprise perspective, and 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 also the use of multi-cloud to make sure that there is availability zones and other things are available, and they're making sure that data is available even if there is some issue has happened in certain cloud and there is data availability is there in other cloud. There are use cases for that as well, and and also most important thing is the archiving of data. There is especially in the industry where IoT industry where there is a lot of data being generated. I think this is not yet boomed yet, but this is going to be the next boom as well, right? So there is a lot of IoT devices going to be available out there, and there is so many use cases which is coming out of IoT. So data is going to be generated out of these IoTs, and storing of these data in different storages, and especially with containers as a strategy on these IoT devices itself, and scaling of these applications on the IoT side itself, and then also making sure that data is available on the storage and archiving that and using of those data for different usages, like for your machine learning purpose, or for just for big data analytics and other stuff. So there are many use cases which I have discussed with a couple of people in the community. So I think these are the use cases will be targeted as well from the cloud perspective as well.
You brought out an important point about distributed data, especially on the edge side or the IoT side, because you started with cloud hybrid and then you landed there. So with respect to this, because this could be a very probably an unexplored area, the real P2P kind of a network, distributed, purely distributed data. And we also see that most of the storage vendors are moving like storage as a service or container storage as a service kind of an overall solution with their existing boxes plus ecosystem components. So in this context, say uh, one side we are seeing cloud and multi-cloud, and the other side we are also seeing maybe it is unexplored that the distributed storage part, and then the indicators like vendors moving into container storage as a service. Does it convey something very specific that the acceleration of the container storage development is happening more than that we can imagine? Alex?
I'm kind of a bit biased, so I'll say yes. And just to follow on from that question and some of the previous discussion, one of the things I think is important when we talk about clouds, multi-cloud, hybrid clouds, private clouds, and all of the services that people are building with Kubernetes. I have a theory, and that is that cloud is not a place. It's a way of running your technology. Organizations want self-service, and they want an on-off consumption model, and they want automation around deployments and automation around operations. And of course, they want a rich set of services. And whilst cloud adoption is accelerating hugely, it's still probably only 5% or so of overall enterprise spend. So I think what we're seeing is this acceleration to container storage is actually driven by the fact that the acceleration towards containers and Kubernetes and people building these sort of declarative and composable cloud-based services on-prem, in the cloud, in VMs, it's kind of happening everywhere, right? So it kind of follows that, going back to the previous premise, every application has to store state somewhere, whether it's a database, a file system, a message queue in analytics, etc. You're going to need to have that storage somewhere. And I was particularly I particularly liked the comment around I think Vivek and Sumek were talking about the developer adoption and how this is changing the choices, because I think what we're seeing here is that we're seeing a migration almost from what is typically something that was done in infrastructure teams to something that's now done in developer teams and DevOps teams. And for the first time ever, developers are getting to choose what storage they use. So they're naturally drawn to software options and cloud services because those are things which they can manage and they can deploy and they can make use of, right? So this is in fact, as with my CNCF storage tag hat on, one of the things we kind of did here was we wrote a white paper talking about what this cloud native storage landscape looks like, because developers need to learn this now, right? They need to understand the attributes of their application, and whether they're looking for performance or availability or scale or disaster recovery and all of these kind of things, and durability, and actually understand how to use the services and how to use the software that's available for their environments, which is absolutely key, because the reality is there are lots of use cases. Some are, you might have a trading application that might be optimized for low latency, or you might have a distributed file system that needs to be optimized for huge scale and being able to store petabytes of information, right? But ultimately, they require different architectures and different deployments and different services. So that's why I think we're seeing this huge expansion, because we're moving from an infrastructure team that used to say, well, here's your storage, that's all you've got. And we're moving to a place now where developers and DevOps teams are making their own choices and choosing different solutions for their different use cases.
And you think that it is a reality, it is not just imagination? Some technologies that we talk much about it, but maybe the reality will be different. But in the container storage, do you think that it is already a reality?
I know it's a reality. We have, today I know of banks, insurance companies, retail companies, educational companies. Every single vertical has established this in their environments. And if you look at for example, the Cloud Native Foundation, the Cloud Native Compute Foundation end user case studies, which are on the website. I think there's like 150 of them now. These are some of the largest companies in the world, all deploying all sorts of use cases and running mission critical parts of their business on this sort of technology today. Okay.
Yeah, I shift that question slightly different to Atish. See, now we are talking about all container-based deployment, and you have a lot of SaaS kind of an application. Do you really have any deployment without container?
Yes, we do. And however, the techie in me doesn't like it. That's a reality, right? There is a reason for it, right? Now, imagine that you're this old age auto manufacturer who has this software sitting inside your network, looking at how your manufacturing is working, right? Now, if you are maintaining that kind of an application and you want to move to SaaS, right? Like Souvik was also saying, it becomes a little challenging in terms of cost, right? You can't just suddenly move, right? So you wouldn't have, a straight away migration path of 5 years being carved out, where a software would be rewritten, right? It doesn't happen that way. Yeah, practically, what people tend to do is, move bit by bit, maybe run some, virtual machines on the cloud. It is costly, no doubts about it. In fact, way too costly than what we can imagine. But that's a step forward for you to move to the cloud, right? So you will see certain applications in that migration journey where they're running on virtual machines, they're running on traditional storage. So you wouldn't have containers there as much. But there also you'll see new advents coming, like Alex was mentioning, right? You'll see Kubernetes being expanded to virtual machines too. So you'll have that kind of environment also, right? At least
the legacy kind of
yeah.
platforms. So do you also see that, suppose these legacy kind of platforms, say for example, okay, I just leave that automobile or manufacturing kind of a thing to say banking, for example.
Yeah.
They also have a lot of legacy systems in place, and it's very hard to change. And so we see some kind of a trend on specific use cases in our survey that say data protection, kind of data backup, some kind of data migration.
Yeah.
These are some of the most sought after kind of use cases. But do you also see similar thing in your engagements with the customers?
Yes, we do that. Actually, when you look at anybody who's moving to a SaaS-based model, they do have two kinds of use cases. One, where they're very stingy about moving the data to the cloud. So there, it's more like most of your data is sitting on premise, and only the metadata gets shipped to the cloud for maybe analytics. But a big part of the industry is moving very fast. Like I was saying, with COVID, a lot of different use cases have come in to move these applications to the cloud. Right? And once that is happening, it is also making sure that you have a migration path for your data, right? And not just data that is being written on the storage on the cloud, but legacy data too, right? Vivek did mention about archiving. People have these automated strategies that they're looking for, where they're looking for data to be, first protected. Maybe because of compliance needs, they want to archive it too, so that in case if they have a legal case coming in, they can actually look at their data. And it also provides a lot of cost benefit, right? So if you have like tons of data sitting on your block storage on the cloud, it is expensive, right? It is really expensive. Right? Now, when you want to move away from that, right? And you want to move your data to an archival storage, right? Like Deep Archive on AWS, for example. Right? If you would want to move there, right, you wouldn't want to do that bit by bit, right? So there is some automation strategy required over there.
Probably a well thought policy based data management kind of thing.
And it adds to the previous discussion we were having, right? That storage as a service brings in these value adds, right? You would have policies, you would have automated storage tiering, you would have auto scaling of your storage, right? Gone are the days when you needed a LAN and you called somebody up and you went to the lab, took a FC cable, plugged it into an array. Those days are gone, right? You would want a quicker reaction to the load that you're seeing, right? If suddenly you see a burst of 1 million users coming in, which is not impossible now with what we've seen, you would want to make sure that your storage strategy is also aligned.
Okay, so we see that there are challenges because of the current demand.
Anil?
Yes.
I'm sorry, but can we have some closing statements because we are almost on time now?
Okay, okay.
Okay. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we really need to make up. Otherwise, we'll end up in the same delays again.
Yeah.
I know this is an interesting panel. We've all been watching
I
this.
thought we have 45 minutes in this panel.
You have no idea how quickly you exhausted those 45 minutes.
Okay, so in that case, I think I am forced to conclude, right? So, see, we see is that there are challenges because of which there is a clear trend towards container storage, and at the same time, what are the key challenges when we move towards container storage, and do you have any suggestions for the open data framework, so-called open data framework from SODA? What are the key challenges, and maybe is there any key messages you
So,
have when we
yeah.
consider it?
I would add a couple of points, and then maybe which, as Alex said, right, it's the future. But yeah, there are plenty of room to work towards making it better. Say, for example, scalability and balancing resources usage. There are few factors which has to be improved upon to make it better and better adoption for the container storage, right? So. Those are the few key points to be taken care, I think.
Okay. Vivek, do you want to add any closing notes?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm looking at is from a SODA Foundation is that, how does it solve the AI ML part of it, the predictability, auto governance and auto data management, data lifecycle management, and how does it help in a hybrid mode? I think it is solving a bit and pieces right now. But I think I'm looking forward for the future releases where how does it solve the policies, auto policies, and data management stuff like that. So I'm hoping that will be an interesting use case to play around as well.
I hope our developers are listening to this. We need to step up maybe 5 steps to meet your requirements. Okay, Atish, you want to have some closing notes on this? What we need to focus and what are the challenges?
Yeah, I kind of concur with everybody here. It's an interesting, boom that we are seeing. Everything going as a service is not just a trend anymore. Gone are the days when people were planning to have a 5-year roadmap to be SaaS enabled. It's all gone, right? And I don't think anybody can survive in this market without having a good SaaS strategy in place. Right? So storage vendors have this opportunity, and I do see that with SODA2 to contribute to this effort through the framework we are developing, from making a storage agnostic solution which will be working as a service, more like a policy based engine, just like Vivek said.
Thanks, Satish. Alex.
I think I'll just sort of talk about two trends that we're seeing. One is that organizations are everywhere seem to be deploying a larger number of smaller Kubernetes clusters. We don't have this panacea of having like one mega cluster which is all multi-tenanted. People are deploying clusters per deployment, per project or per application sometimes. And so one of the future requirements, I think, is going to be around making sure that storage is consumable across clusters, is able to move across clusters, is able to be replicated across clusters, and that applications have that flexibility. And I think the second point is, we talked about all the new applications going to these new environments, but there is this huge legacy infrastructure which isn't going to move that quickly. It's going to take maybe decades. If we look at what happened with mainframes, it took the better part of 20 or 30 years, and many organizations still have them. So I think one of the other big things that we're going to see is how we integrate these two environments, because as people move applications into these new cloud native environments, they will have upstream or downstream dependencies that continue to live in existing traditional environments, and having the capability to work across both environments is going to be key.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Alex. In fact, I have noted down a lot of keywords like cloud is not a place, stateful, infrastructure automation, scale down, scale up. But Anvit is not allowing me to summarize this fully. So, in summary, I just want to say that what the conclusion kind of summary is that storage anywhere, anytime means we should move towards container storage. Looks like that, and we have a lot of opportunity for developers. We need to unlearn and learn things in this direction, and it's a reality. Thank you so much for joining, and I don't know whether Anvit allows to take any questions from the audience.
I believe there is one question, and I think we obviously for such a long panel, it makes sense we have some questions from the audience.
So nice of you.
So how is the cloud native domain going to be disrupted once 5G becomes mainstream? Wants to know Rajat Verma.
Okay, cloud native domain going to be disrupted once 5G becomes mainstream or 5G becomes reality. Yeah, this is open. Anybody can pick it.
I think five. Sorry, go on.
Go ahead, Alex. No, I just wanted to talk about the IoT, which is going to be the next big thing. So 5G is going to, will be helpful for the IoT devices, and obviously cloud native, virtual kubelets, which is there, and all those SCADA scenarios, which is there. I think these things all will come into picture.
And I think just on that point as well, 5G is also driving, other trends like, edge computing, for example. So what we have is a move perhaps from big monolithic data centers into more distributed data centers across the world, where again software-based systems which are declarative and composable and can be automated is going to be the key.
Yeah, like you mentioned, I think cloud is not a place. Probably if the 5G comes, it will be edge cloud completely. Cloud will vanish.
Indeed.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much.
On that note, we'd like to end this session. But before we end the session, all those who are present in the session, you're lucky because this is one of the quiz sessions where I'm going to be asking a question.
Panel members also?
Panel members, you are lucky that you are on the panel, but no, you're not lucky for getting the prize. This is only open to the audience and those who are not part of SODA. So let's see who is a lucky winner in this one. So I'm going to post a question in the Q&A and put it on the screen. Okay, you have to answer in the chat section. Okay, it's a very simple one. It's a fill in the blanks. Okay, so this is from the morning's keynote and also yesterday's sessions. So what are the key components for an open data framework? Open SO dash, open HT dash, open EC dash, and open COL dash. So I want you to fill those 4 blanks. Answer in the chat. Answer in the chat. It's a very simple question. I've given you the hints as well. What are the 4 key components for an open data framework? This was part of Stephen's keynotes since yesterday. So, okay, I am seeing, if you're typing fast, you need to make sure you're typing the full. I've given you half the answer on the screen. I need to see all the 4 blanks typed out properly in one answer. Come on, quickly. It's very easy. It's very easy. Let's see who has got the quickest fingers. No, Solomon, that's not the right answer. Come on, Jennifer, you can do better. I'm pretty sure you can do better. Come on, people. In the chat, I want you to write down the 4 answers. What are the key components for an open data framework? The first one should be very, very simple. What is open cola? I've heard of Coca-Cola, I've heard of Pepsi Cola, I've never heard of open cola. I'm sorry, that's not the right answer. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Type out the answer.
It's
Type out the
upcoming
answer.
one. And it is an upcoming
Yeah,
one.
the next release, we're going to release a cola along with the release. Everybody gets a cola. You get a cola. You get a cola. We all get a cola. Okay, come on. It's not that difficult. Anybody else? Anybody wants to take a stab at it? Come on. Open as okay. What are the key components? Open source, open standard, open and open collaboration. Okay, I'm going to give this to Jamie. Is it Jamie I? Because Jamie I got most of it right. I'm going to consider the third one as a typo. So Jamie I gets it right. This is the correct answer. Congratulations, Jamie. You have won yourself a voucher worth $100 for Amazon.com. That's a good prize to win. And that's the reason I'm saying these are good quizzes, and these are going to be quizzes which will give you some more knowledge about the Open Data Framework and Soda Foundation. Jamie, please message me directly in the platform. With that, now it's time to move on to the next session. I would like to thank all our STM panelists, Vivek Sridhar, Alex Kirkhope, Atish Arora, and Soumik Ghosh, and our moderator, Sanil Kumardi. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Sanil.
Thank you. Bye. Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. If you can all join the next session, and that is going to be a lightning talk being conducted by Yusuf Yildiz on storage management is more than CSI driver, how to solve issues with the PBs. Let's go on now to the next session.